Dan, oh, sorry.
Thanks. I appreciate the energy to get started. But is there a curfew? If there was a thought bubble over my head when we came out, it would have been, okay, there it is. The energy, the intensity, and it was definitely good to see that. There would probably be some other stuff that you wouldn't have wanted to see in that thought bubble at the half, giving up some scores into those spaces. So those were a few of the things I liked. I was excited to see Debo run. Honestly, I'd been on the other side of that, and I know what that movie looks like, so that was cool to see. Saw John Bates again in the run game. I felt all the presence with him, and I felt the D-line active early. What I told the team, these penalties, they cost us. We had a 4th down penalty, and those were the ones I thought, man, that's our winning time. We've got to nail those. And then coming out for the second half, I liked some of the intensity. I thought the run game, early was better than late, but more than our last outing, intensity better, tackling better, but we have much to clean up to get to the standards that we want to play at. So all that said, glad to get rocking with you. JP, you were fired up. Why don't you start off?
Thank you. The decision to pull Jaden there, was that kind of all along what you thought would be one? You said 1 or 2 series. He didn't get a pass off. Do you feel like he got plenty of work this, training camp?
Yeah, when you go through it, he gets more than 50%, of everything, going into it. So we're still, obviously digging in at the third quarterback spot with Josh and Sam. So I knew I wanted reps for them, and if we could get quarters to do it. I was going into it with Jaden, 1 or 2 series, and so I thought that was good for me.
And then earlier, Jaden said you addressed the Brian Robinson situation with the team. What is that situation, and kind of what did you tell the fellas to expect?
Sure. And Adam and I had met with Brian yesterday, and knowing that we would hold him out of the game tonight, and there's just a lot of moving parts. This time of year, those things take place, and so I just wanted to make sure that's my responsibility, to let the team know whenever I can, so they're not hearing any information from anywhere else. So that was all. It's more of the standard operating procedure for me. But if I have a chance, when things come up, especially during this time of year, when I can bring them together and discuss things, I want them to hear those things from me first. That's all.
Dan, what's the status of Trey Amos?
Yes, so we held Trey. He had just some tightness in his hamstring in practice on my days are mixed up. Maybe it was Saturday. And so we warmed him up good today to see if he could really open up and go. And in his mind, he was ready and just still feel it a little bit. So we thought this is one of those times to be, cautious and wait it out. I think regular season, we probably, he would have been fighting us for it. So that was the decision. We tried to see where it would take us, and that's where it was.
When Jaden took off, is your heart in your throat at all? And were you, did you tell him anything about maybe next time the preseason you might want to get down faster?
Yeah, you think those conversations haven't already been told? No, honestly, it is part of his game, and it is what makes him a special player. When the second play begins, there's just an unusual playmaking ability that takes place. Sometimes it's with his legs, other times it's with his arm, but it is part of who he is. But it is one of the things we've worked on to say, when do you take your shots and when do you go? There'll be more of that, at times. Sometimes I'll say less of that, but, for the most part today, I was pleased with the preparation heading into the game.
Was Eckler just a veteran situation similar to Ertz?
Yeah, really him and J-Mac, we weren't going to give them as much. We really wanted to feature in the running game today, Chris and Bill, and so we went into that. Some games you have more, who you want to look at more. We did a little bit at linebacker, with Kane and Ale and Duke, and so that was all part of, by design. And then as we get into next week, it may be a couple of guys at different spots. You probably saw Jalen Lane some outside. And that's by design, too, to say, okay, we have a good feel for where you're doing the slot. But, with him and Luke, what does outside look like? And sometimes it's not like taking a shot, but it's putting guys in different roles and saying, okay, what would that look like? I'd much prefer to do those now and find that out. And then, okay, we can change. You saw a little bit of that with some of the safeties that played down by the line of scrimmage. Jeremy Reeves has been involved with that. He's had just a fantastic camp. Like, he is like commander through and through as a standard, but his play, his speed has elevated, and so he's earned, more ops for himself.
And just with Chris and Bill in that room, like what did you think you saw tonight, and how do you feel about that group?
Yeah, I thought early what I liked was decisiveness. I thought, you certainly saw some of the big plays, and we're still, learning Bill in some ways, and not every run for every back is quite the same. Fortunately for us with Anthony here, we've got a real veteran in the running back room. That's a big part of that. We've got a good sense for where Chris was coming in, but we wanted to get him more touches today, and Bill as well. So with Austin and Jeremy, we were, thinking a little bit less. And then as we get into next week, Adam and I will visit and say who do we want to feature and look at on Saturday.
With regard to Bill and Chris and really the whole backfield, how much did what you've seen from those guys factor into what's going on with Brian Robinson?
Going into training camp, we really thought this was a deep room. There'd be real competition, Felton and Kaz and Bill and, Eck. And so we knew this was one of our strengths going into training camp. Felt that way at tight end and, then again, that running back. So we wanted to let it play out and go through it. But, I'll go back and look at the tape. But I liked the energy early on from what I saw from those two. And I thought offensive line, I felt that. I felt protection early on was strong. Andrew was playing at left. Chris Paul was at left. Allegretti was over on the right with Connolly on the right. So a little bit of moving parts with them, but I was pleased to see that, Ben. Guys, that's part of it, moving into different roles and seeing what they can do. But Wiley's certainly somebody that stood out to me. He's been at this side, that side, inside, outside. That's what a real vet can do, and he certainly did that tonight.
Obviously small sample size, but you brought in these big defensive linemen to help with the run game and the defense overall. Could you feel their presence, or how did you kind of see that group in that regard?
Yeah, I definitely did, and I was excited to see Wise and Martin and Kinlaw as their first, starts as a commander. I didn't quite see the foul on Wise, or was horse collar in the pocket to out, so that was one that I want to look at to see. Is there something we can do differently to coach it? Inside the pocket, you're in good shape, but outside it's not. If you start inside the pocket and it ends outside, that's a hard thing for a defensive lineman to know the difference. So I want to look at it and see if we can find stuff. But, I've liked what I've seen from their addition, and, we're going to keep working with them really hard.
When you and Adam talked to Brian Robinson, what was sort of his reaction, and then when exactly did you address the team about?
We visited with Brian, I guess, yesterday afternoon, and then I visited with the team last night. So that was Sunday, yes. So we had a walkthrough on Sunday, and then we visited with Brian after, and then I told the team when we got to the hotel last night. And again, more Nikki, not that they have to, and they know that, but when I can include them on things, I want to do that. It's from a teammate and where we're at, and so just some head nodding, but I'd rather tell them than not. And so that's my pack to them. If I know, I'm going to share it with them.
And Brian's reaction?
Yeah, I'll keep that between us. News like that's not always that easy, but he's somebody that we respect a lot, that's for sure.
You mentioned John Bates' 2 blocks, the one on the Debo run and then the one on Ja'Cory's run.
Yes.
Just what did you see from that, and what have you seen from him during this camp?
Yeah, it was our last padded practice. I thought it was John's best practice. It might have been just 2 or 3 days ago, but I really felt the urgency, the down blocks, the contact. It was really, at a good spot. And he's had a good camp, but I think there was like an elevate, like sometimes you're here and you take it to the next spot. And I felt that from John, and that kind of carried over into the game. So I was looking forward to our run game, being emphasized some tonight.
Okay, with Brian, what is his future here? What were those conversations like? Do you see him being a part of this team?
Yeah, like I said, the conversation we had, we felt it was best, John, to sit out, tonight, and then, we'll I'll give you an update once there's one to share with you.
Bates, why is he such a good blocker?
For as tall as he is, John, this guy can really play with good leverage. And if you can beat somebody to the punch, whether it's at tight end or any offensive line spot, with tight hands and play it low, he's got real power. And so that's the spot. There's been honestly some great battles between he and Wise and Kinlaw out on the edge. So I imagine there's some sharpening ironing that's going on with that. And I see John as one of the very best at what he does. And so it's been cool to see that. All right, thank you, everybody. Safe trip home.